Good evening, everybody. It is now 6 p.m. We're still waiting on one more member from the commission to arrive. Let's give them 5 more minutes at most. If that person's not here in 5 minutes, we'll begin the meeting. All right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the City of Boynton Beach City Commission meeting. This meeting is called to order. Today is Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024. The time is now 6:04 p.m. Let's begin first with the roll call, and then we'll proceed to the rules of civility and decorum. City Clerk, if you could please begin.
Mayor Penserga,
Here.
Vice Mayor Kelly,
Here.
Commissioner Cruz,
Here.
Commissioner Hay,
Here.
Commissioner Turkin.
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. I want to remind everyone of our rules of civility and decorum. As always, speakers must first be addressed by me, the chair of the meeting, and not interrupt any other speakers. Public comments must be addressed to the board as a whole through the chair and not to any particular individual in the dais or in the audience. Personal attacks, insults, disruptive behaviors, similar actions that are disruptive to the meeting are strictly prohibited. Should you violate these rules, you may be asked to leave these chambers. Let's turn now to Commissioner Woodrow Hay for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Woodrow Hay. Let's all stand for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Father, we're thankful for our health and for our strength. We thank you for allowing us to come out to make the decision that will benefit this city and its citizens. Bless each member of this commission and our staff. We thank you for Thanksgiving holidays and holidays that are coming up. We just give you all the honor and we give you all the praise. Open up our minds and hearts that we may be receptive and respectful to each other. We pray, Father, that the information that we make decision on will be one that will be pleasing in your eyes and in your ears. And we'll be so careful, Lord, to give you all the praise. For it's in Jesus' name with that we do pray and ask it all. Let every heart say amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Commissioner Hay. We're now moving on to agenda approval, additions, deletions, corrections to the agenda. I have one request for my colleagues, if you're comfortable. If not, we can always have it in another way. I'd like to have a discussion today of something that's become a public matter, which is the Andrews House. It's been on the news. There's been lots of conversations outside of here. If you're comfortable with having that today, I'd love to have that conversation.
Yep. On that note, Mayor, I
Go ahead,
think
Commissioner.
part of that conversation that I'd like to add, I'm glad you brought it up, is looking at our art impact fee and see how we can widen the scope for that to cover historic preservation, right? It's something that we don't have. I think this is a mechanism that if we do get consensus and staff can work on this, we can widen the scope, create an alternative waiver for a builder or a developer to pay into maybe something like this that we're talking about now, moving the Andrews House. And then also it creates a mechanism to where we can fund these type of projects, because currently we don't have that mechanism. So that's kind of where I want to gear that conversation is, hey, yes, the situation's happening. What's the solution? And I think that is a potential solution. So I'll reserve the rest of my comments for later.
This sounds good. And that's all in the same topic of historic preservation. Did I understand you correctly?
Yep.
Okay, all right, let's have that. Was there anything else, Commissioner? Let's just get on my left this time then.
Yep, the other thing, if we can get an update on the beautification department, as well as, I had brought up prior, doing a board, like having a community board for the beautification department. Where are we at with that? And then also, I know that there was some funds budgeted for the senior advisory board to do a senior prom. I have been informed that those funds may not be allocated, so I'd like to know how we can make sure we get that project done. And then the other thing is just the Dewey Park tree. If we can keep that lit all year round, I'd like to have a discussion on the agenda for a future item for that.
Okay. So beautification and senior advisory board and this possible senior prom and the funding for it.
Yep.
Okay. Commissioner Hay, anything from you?
I'd just like to add from my fund, $500, if I can add this to the agenda tonight for the holiday dinner baskets. That's going to benefit the kids and their families in this community. So I'd like to add that onto the community.
We'll put that under Section 5 administrative, Commissioner Hay. Is that all right?
That would be appropriate, yes.
Okay. Was there anything else?
That's it for me.
Okay. Let's turn now to Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything additional other than what has already been mentioned.
Right, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Cruz.
Yeah, just because I heard this also with conversations with staff, the $10,000 for the senior board that I had requested to have allocated last year, it was allocated. The money is there. We just need to find a way to utilize it for that purpose. So that's something that we can work with staff, and I'm working on that diligently with staff as well. So just since it was part of the conversation, I do not have any other additions to the agenda.
Okay, thank you. So we'll include that. We'll mention that again back when we have the conversation. If there's nothing else from my colleagues, we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended. We have a motion from Commissioner Turk and a second from Commissioner Hay. All those in favor of approving the agenda as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously, and the agenda is approved as amended. Let's turn now to Section 2, informational items from members of the City Commission. Let me begin on my right with Commissioner Cruz, if you have any informational items. or any
Received
updates.
multiple emails and phone calls and messages with regard to the Andrews House, and it's something that also I've had conversations with staff about.
Okay, sounds good. Vice Mayor?
No, Mayor, I do not have any disclosures. Thank you.
Okay, and Commissioner Hay? Informational items?
None except the call and emails about the Anderson House.
All right,
That's it.
all right, Commissioner Turkin?
Yeah, same as my colleagues.
All right, I have the same disclosures as my colleagues. Let's move on to Section 3, Proclamation for December 2024 as Impaired Driving Awareness Month. We're going to recognize this month as Impaired Driving Awareness Month. This will be accepted by Sergeant Christopher Monroe and Officer Vladimir Alexis. Let me do the honor of reading this proclamation into the record, after which I'll come down and present this. And if you'd like to say a few words, what this means, the work that you're doing in the community, and the event that's coming up, that would be greatly appreciated. The proclamation reads as follows: whereas the city of Boynton Beach recognizes the importance of honoring those who have been killed or injured in drunk and drugged driving crashes as a result of any alcohol or substance impaired driving consequences, as well as anyone who has been emotionally devastated by these violent crimes. And whereas in 2023, Palm Beach County had 2,320 drivers arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol or narcotics, there were 1,087 total crashes, 77 serious injuries, and 37 fatalities, all caused by impaired drivers. And whereas December is National Impaired Driving Awareness Month, and November and December are the deadliest months of the year for drunk driving crashes, and whereas Mothers Against Drunk Driving, Palm Beach County's Public Safety Department Victim Services Division, are working to create a future of no more victims and support victims and survivors at no charge, and whereas Mothers Against Drunk Driving, Palm Beach County's Public Safety Department Victim Services Division, and the Boynton Beach Police Department will host a candlelight vigil in the city of Boynton Beach on December 4th to honor victims and survivors. And whereas all citizens are urged to join in the local efforts to raise awareness and to honor the lives of those killed or injured as a result of drunk driving, drug driving, or underage drinking consequences. And now, therefore, I, Typin Serga, Mayor of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, do hereby proclaim the month of December 2024 as Impaired Driving Awareness Month. Can we give them a round of applause for all the work that they're doing? Quick picture first. Yeah. With you.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for your continued support and sponsoring the annual DUI Candlelight Vigil. Each year, we strive to bring awareness to Impaired Driving Awareness Month by recognizing victims and survivors of impaired driving crashes. Impaired driving is a crime that is 100% avoidable. Each life impacted is a pillar in our community. It is our children, our parents, our store owners, and our employees. This year, one of your own residents that lost her husband and daughter here in Boynton Beach will be speaking tomorrow also. I would like to invite you all to attend the 4th Annual DUI Candlelight Vigil tomorrow evening outside this building in this, the amphitheater from 5:30 to 7. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sergeant Monroe with the police department. I'm just going to say a couple words real quick. First of all, that was Carrie Gale with Palm Beach County Victim Services, who is a great partner for this event with us. I believe it's the 4th year now. Yes. We've done this, and just want to thank the mayor and the whole entire commission for allowing us to have this event every year to help bring awareness to those who are all affected by any tragedy involving drunk driving. So thank you.
Thank you. We're going to proceed now to the next item on the agenda. We have 2 announcements. The first one is Vegetation Amnesty Week from December 9th to December 13th for residents. The Solid Waste Division will be collecting extra vegetation during Vegetation Amnesty Week from December 9th through the 13th for residents. Residents may place more than 3 cubic yards of vegetation only out for pickup on their scheduled bulk pickup day during that week. Again, you may place more than 3 cubic yards of vegetation. All guidelines must be followed for pickup, and fees will be waived during the amnesty week only. If you have any questions, you can contact the city at 561-742-6200, option 1, Monday to Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. The next announcement is Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day ceremony. The Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day ceremony will be hosted by the City of Boynton Beach in collaboration with the Boynton Beach Veterans Task Force. The ceremony is being held at Tom Kaiser USN Boynton Beach Veterans Memorial Park, located at 411 North Federal Highway on Saturday, December 7th. That's this Saturday, starting at 11 a.m. The event is free and open to the public. For more information, including ADA accommodations, visit the city's website, boynton-beach.org. All right, that concludes this portion of the agenda. We're going to turn now to public audience. I want to remind you that each person has 3 minutes. When you approach the podium, you begin by stating your name for the record. For those of you online, we'll proceed with you after everyone in the chambers have spoken. For those of you online, I will let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining. All right, you may begin.
Thank you, David Katz. First of all, I want to congratulate Commissioner Cruz on running unopposed. I say that's a testament to how the folks in your district feel about you. So congratulations. The table has been set for our upcoming mayoral and District 3 elections in March. The election in District 3 has provided us with 2 newcomers that the voters of District 3 should pass by. One is a candidate who just wants to complain, and the other is a fellow who just wants to run a social media campaign that attacks the incumbent with junior high school rhetoric. It is also believed that he shouldn't have qualified to run because of not satisfying the residency requirement of living in the district for 1 year. Wow, deja vu all over again. In the mayor's race, in my opinion, there are 3 candidates that the voters should soundly reject. One is a person who ran for the commission in District 3 and came in a distant third. I've been told he favors having a strong mayor and wants to eliminate height restrictions, especially at the Boynton Beach Mall site. Voting for him would mean you also believe that it would be a good idea to play the song Candle in the Wind at King Charles's birthday party. Thank you. Another person is one who has run for mayor twice and has been soundly rejected by the voters both times. She also seems to be favoring one segment of our community. You just need to check out her website from her 2022 campaign. Voting for her would mean you also believe that landing the Hindenburg in a lightning storm was a good idea. The final lost cause is a former commissioner and a resident of Hunter's Run. He has been fined by the Florida State Ethics Commission for disclosure failures as a candidate, and was also fined by the Florida Elections Commission for campaign violations, and was censored by his fellow commissioners for inappropriately touching the CRA director. What a guy. And if you think voting for him is a good idea, you also must believe that Godzilla initiated Toco's urban renewal. Thank you.
All right, next speaker, please approach the podium, state your name for the record. And we do have 2 podiums, we can always go back and forth.
Hello, I'm David Merker. Angela, congratulations. A little surprised by the last speaker, whose reputation is basically he backs people where he makes money. The last person he mentioned who was a bad guy is me. And I didn't mean to talk about me, David Merker. But unfortunately, the man knows everything and knows nothing. And I can't use the word because Ty will yell at me. But he's the low of the low, always has been. And I'm wondering, with this election coming, and all the candidates who are running have a right to run. Okay? So with all the candidates running, good luck to all of them, including myself. But when you deal with that, who's basically, the word on the street is, he's backing the city manager.
All right, next speaker.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, please state your name for the record. Good evening.
My name is Olitha Blue, and this is my mother, Playcell Blue. We just wanted to come up and thank the city of Boynton Beach, the commissioner, the mayor, and everyone We was here a few months ago going for a change of use for a adult daycare in the city of Boynton Beach, which we have accomplished. We did our ribbon cutting yesterday. So I just wanted to thank you all and let the city know that we are here in the city of Boynton Beach. Our services provided are personal. We have a registered nurse, which is myself, always on staff, and our CNAs. We are personalized approach, health and wellness, one hot meal, daily exercise, and we would like to also incorporate our members in the city of Boynton Beach, the residents first. So if each and every one of you have anyone that is in need of services that we can provide for, we're at 709 Federal Highway in the city of Boynton Beach. And again, I just want to say thank you, Commissioner and the CRA, for backing us up, and we really appreciate you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you, and Commissioner May, thank you so much for coming yesterday.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, next speaker, state your name for the record and you may begin.
Yes, my name is Ginger Peterson. I am a 34-year resident of Boynton Beach and a Florida native. I'm here just to speak on behalf of the group that has formed to help save the Andrews House. History is something that's very near and dear to my heart, and the Andrews House is a special place. If you haven't been there, I would really recommend that you tour the property and look at it because it is a rare, rare place. I served on the city's Historic Preservation Board for 9 years. And at that time, we did have a historic preservation planner in Warren Adams. He was never replaced when he went on to other employment. So I think to have someone who really understands what historic preservation can mean to a city is something that is perhaps missing at this time. If you look down to Delray Beach, they have the Sunday Village project. That's a $240 million project that's centered around several old homes that were moved to that location and are currently being renovated. There's no reason that something like this cannot happen here in Boynton as well. So those small homes are going to be used as retail, and the property is surrounded by offices and condos. So it may just look like an old house, but it really isn't. It's all made of Dade County pine. It is not falling apart by any means. And it was completely renovated, not quite, maybe a little more than 20 years ago. And I'm not talking about a little paint and spackle. I'm talking about taking down to the studs, rewired, replumbed. Air conditioning was put in underneath it with ductwork. So it is not that it is some kind of decrepit structure that is falling apart. Dade County pine is harder than maple. And it would be a shame to just have it destroyed for no other reason than you thought perhaps that nobody cared. But people do care in the community, and we're forming around that, and we want to be helpful. This can happen as a community project with the City Commission, the CRA, and whatever other civic groups come forward to help us. So that's my message. We're here to be helpful and to be constructive. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next speaker, state your name for the record and begin when you're ready.
Phil Torano, South Florida resident. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I have decided to attend and speak this evening to make you aware that I have successfully secured a new location for my passion project, which was unfortunately taken away by some city staff members in breach of a contract manner. Additionally, I am also here this evening to let the entire commission and staff members that are a part of this panel know that I have waited long enough and the time has come for the commission and its staff answer to the city taxpayers, yet why another lawsuit is coming towards this city by myself and my company. A few months ago, Mr. Mayor, one of the commissioners on this panel made it clear that the public needs to be heard. Well, his statement has rung very, very clear in my head for a while now. I'm no longer on the offensive. I'm on the major offensive. In just a few years' time, I have been witness to corruption, campaign violations, ethics violations, and political power abuse. I have personally watched high school secret note passing during official commission meetings and just blatantly disregard for the office that your colleagues currently uphold and ethically, honorably chose to do. Lastly, I've heard the saying in this city, if it's good for the city, it's good for me. Well, unfortunately, the city manager, the city attorney, and finally, the commissioner who used his political influence to interfere in a DUI traffic violation and accident, and then used city funds to hire an attorney to help him through a code of ethics investigation. I'd like to say to the above mentioned that you are no longer good for the city, and it's time for you to go.
All right, next speaker. Let's continue. Other side of the podium. We've got two podiums. Somebody just go.
Good evening.
All right, both of you. Gentlemen, both of you, please stop.
He's interrupting.
Both of you.
Mayor. He's interrupting decorum.
Both of you, please. Mr. Warnicki? Mr. Warnicki, you have the floor.
Okay.
Please state your name for the record begin.
Tom Warnke, start my 3 minutes. I'm here to talk about a feel-good subject, and we all need some feel-good right now, especially with the holidays. And that feel-good project is the Andrews home. I happened to be riding down Ocean Avenue about 10 days ago, and I looked to my right and I saw the demolition equipment in front of the house. I said, oh, I kind of cussed myself. I knew it might be happening. I didn't know that the machinery was already there. I drove down, talked to the guy in charge of the machinery. He said, yeah, it's coming down on Monday, which was the Monday before Thanksgiving. And took some pictures, emailed a few people. I was so busy that weekend, I could not mount any efforts on my own. But the people with the Historical Society and so many other people in Boynton jumped on it and said, we've got to save this house. My history here in Boynton starts in 1956. We moved here when I was 8 years old. I went to the old schoolhouse in 3rd grade. And my father was mayor of Boynton back in the 80s. He supervised and managed the renovation of the Andrews home. It took him almost a year. He had an American Express card from Bob Katz, the owner, traveled Florida, brought in the furnishings, supervised the complete renovation of it, as Ginger was just saying, turned it into a museum. But it was kind of off the beaten path there. It needs to be right on Ocean Avenue. The building was made by a Civil War soldier, Mr. Capp, C-A-P-P. And that was in 1909, and the timbers were Dade County pine. Back then, this was part of Dade County. So it could have been local pine, could have been from down south, but it is solid as a rock. The December 17th agenda would be a great place to put this as a firm item on the City Commission's agenda. To talk about it, and that way we won't be kicking the can down the road. And at that meeting, I hope there'll be a resolution to move that building and thereby save it. That once it's moved off the property, it'll be saved. It can be moved again. At the Historical Society in Delray, where I work now as the archive coordinator, we've moved 3 buildings. And PEB Development with the Sunday Village moved 3 buildings within that same property, including the old Cathcart house. And those are going to be focal points for that new development. So I got an estimate from their house mover. He said $75,000 would be completely reasonable to move the Andrews house. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next speaker.
My name is Mike Fitzpatrick, and I reside at 175 Southwest 2nd Street. In 1993, at a family reunion in Belfast, Maine, I saw a community-built playground, and New Boynton Beach needed one. Returning to Florida, I found out Delray Beach and Boca Raton already had citizen volunteers working to build playgrounds in their cities. Newly elected Commissioner David Katz appointed me to the Recreation and Park Advisory Board. With strong support from him, Rec Director Charlie Fredericks, Mayor Jerry Taylor, and City Manager Carrie Parker Hill, the Kids Kingdom Steering Committee was formed, and 2 years later, 1,500 volunteers built Kids Kingdom. By using the dilapidated old elementary school as the tool room, all volunteers learned of the desire to preserve the school, and this was the critical mass to create the Children's Museum. 3 members of the Kids Kingdom Steering Committee are part of the Move Historic Andrews House Group. Janet DeVries, historical author and research librarian, Bob Taylor, former Bethesda Hospital Chief Financial Officer, and myself. In 2016, I lost my city commission re-election race, and city staff, Lori Laverriere, Colin Groff, and Jeff Livergood, and Mike Rumpf, saw this as an opportunity to sacrifice kingdom on the altar of overdevelopment. In 2019, 6 weeks before the bulldozing of the Kids Kingdom, I was allocated $20,000 to move the castle entrance of Kids Kingdom 3 miles to Forest Hills Park in Chapel Hill. I acted as the contractor of record, pulled the permit, drew up the plans, revised them so an outside civil engineer would stamp the plans, found a subcontractor for concrete cutting, found a crane company, and at the end of the move, supervised the placement of 40 tons of reinforced concrete. Then I began rebuilding the entrance, but I was too slow, and after a couple of months, the city assigned Kevin Ramsey to work with me and get her done, which he did in good form. If desired, I will be the contractor of a record again for the house move. Secondly, I'm requesting the city appoint Kevin Ramsey as the liaison with our committee, so the lessons learned in moving the Kids Kingdom Castle entrance will not have to be learned again. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next speaker. State your name for the record. Begin when you're ready.
Dominic Vargas, 219 Southwest 9th Ave. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, commissioners, and neighbors. My name's Dominic Vargas, and I come before you tonight not as a candidate, but as a concerned citizen. A citizen who, like many of you, is deeply troubled by recent events that have cast a shadow over our city's leadership. You may have read the Palm Beach Post article about an incident involving a commissioner in this chamber. If you haven't, let me briefly highlight it. During a DUI investigation involving the commissioner's girlfriend, police body cameras were turned off after the commissioner arrived at the scene of the accident. This raises serious questions about transparency, accountability, and fairness, questions that deserve answers. Why were the cameras turned off? Who gave that order? And did the commissioner's presence influence the outcome of the investigation? Let's be honest. If any of us were in that situation, would the cameras have been silenced? Would someone step in to make things easier for us? We all know the answer to that. For families in Boynton Beach who've suffered the heartbreak of drunk driving, this is a slap in the face. For residents who believe in the rule of law, this is a breach of trust. And this isn't just about one night. It's about the kind of city we want to be. If those in power are allowed to operate above the rules, what does that say to the rest of us? That there are 2 sets of laws, one for the connected and one for everyone else? That's not the city we deserve. Tonight, I want to call on this commission to take immediate, decisive action, to launch an independent investigation and to reach either to the state or federal authorities, because only an impartial authority can ensure the transparency this situation demands. Anything less would send the message that power, not principle, rules this city. The residents of Boynton Beach are watching, and they aren't looking for excuses. They're looking for leadership. Show them you're committed to integrity, fairness, and accountability. Show them that no one, not even those in power, are above the law. This is your moment to lead, to rebuild trust, and to prove that Boynton Beach stands for justice. Thank you very much.
Next speaker.
Hello, board and everybody else. My name is Charles Hunt. I'm a military retiree, and I live at 1330 Northwest First Court, Boynton Beach. there in Rolling Green. I spoke to you all on the last meeting, and I asked for your help, and I'm sure you're helping me. I received a call that someone was in my yard walking around my house taking pictures not too long ago. And his name is the same guy I've been complaining about, Chevelle being AIM. He wasn't supposed to come in my yard. I asked him, what are you doing in here? Get out of here. You're supposed to be to the road. And he told me that he was sent there by the well, anyway, I given the assistant manager a letter. And since that particular time, I've been called and asked, hey, all we want you to do is write us a letter to reduce your lien. I'm like, what lien? I shouldn't even have a lien. I'm not the only one with something else on my carport besides a car. But I'm being charged $75 a day for having something on my carport without a car, other than a car. I'm being railroaded. And not only me, many more in my neighborhood, Rolling Green. And it's the senior citizens. Matter of fact, I'm not pointing fingers, but it's mostly Black Americans who's getting this rough treatment. And we are sure that our homes are being taken. Boynton Beach has never been a racketism before. But now I'm seeing Boynton Beach at a racketism. Please, do something about this. You hired the city managers and all of that. We expect you all to do something about it. I'm not going to be here long, so I'm going to leave you all a copy of a letter that I would like each of you to read, and I really appreciate your help. Thank you. Be blessed.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll grab it later. All right, next speaker.
Cindy Falco Di Corrado. I first wanted to talk about the Florida Power and Light outage that's in our street lights. Mine has been out for over a month. I did call Florida Power and Light, and so did my neighbor. They told us it was going to take 30 days. There's several lights out in my community, and there's several lights out on Boynton Beach Boulevard. As you know, it's not the most safest area, and I would appreciate if there's something the city can do to get Florida Power and Light to get this taken care of quicker than 30 days. I also wanted to bring up about the historic home. As we do have the Magnus House down here in the city next to the historical school, which we spent lots of money renovating to keep it historical. We also have the Children's Historical Museum next to that. I did send some pictures, I believe, to my commissioner, to Thomas Turkin, and to the city manager in regards to other communities such as Colley Square down in Homestead. Well, actually it's schools, and there's also another little historical village in Claremont by Claremont, and they made it a really charming area, and it could be a really big asset for our community in having some tourism. People love history. As I shared before, we have football fields, we have baseball fields, but we don't have anything for the ladies, not unless you like fishing. This would be a perfect little outing, a wonderful place right in our downtown area, something old as we're building new all around us to keep the validity and the history of this precious town. And in between, they can build other little stores, rent them out, and have commerce out of these little stores. And I hope that the CRA doesn't stand for Criminal Resource Agency. I hope it really is going to put the money, the bucks where they've already spent money, and make it doable for all of us, and even us that live here in this city, because I live here and I love old historical things. I have an actual historical home, even though I haven't registered it because I don't like the rules, as many of you know. Anyhow, back to the topic at hand as well. Seacrest. What are we going to do about this hideous Seacrest? I drive down Seacrest in the heart of Boynton Beach. It's beautiful. I love it. You guys did a great job in District 2. I would love to see that here as well. I don't know what the plans are. All I see is mayhem. I live also off of First Street and Boynton Beach Boulevard. Where they put a light, I just found out that it's the county's problem where they're putting it. It is going to be mayhem. They put a street light between 3rd and 2nd off of Boynton Beach Boulevard. You cannot turn to get over to the main street on Boynton Beach Boulevard. You have to go through the light, so that's going to back up traffic in the neighborhood. Then you have the light right before I-95, the light right after I-95. As coming off of coming over I-95, I live off of 3rd Street, so I'm not going to be able to turn because now there's a light in between 3rd and 2nd, so I've got to wait for all this traffic to go through. Then when I leave my home, I come out 2nd Street. Now there's a light on 3rd, so if that's going to be there and it's blocking that traffic, how am I going to make a left-hand turn? It's impossible. Then you have the school. I'm just asking to please look into that. It's really going to be mayhem. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, other podium.
Hi, good evening. My name's Steve Antone, a 25-year resident of Boynton Beach, a native Floridian. I'd like to mention that this city commission is over 100 years old. What are we doing decision-wise that your grandkids will be proud to be in this city? We've lost so much of our history and our heritage, and I can't stress this enough. Heritage is the anchor and the glue that holds cities together. I grew up in North Miami Beach. I've seen it just destroyed by no heritage at all. They just mowed it all down. Please don't let that happen to Boynton. We have a beautiful, wonderful, rich history and heritage that needs to be saved. Whether it's the Andrews home, the Magnuson house, the high school, make us a destination besides just the beach. We have more to offer than just the beach. Please, please, think about this for long term. What your grandkids, will they want to live in this city? Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Susan Oyer, Boynton Beach. Sorry, small notes. I got to put the glasses on. First, I'm going to say save the historic Andrews House. So I'm announcing my goals and what I want at the beginning. I'm also going to say move the historic Andrews House. This commission needs to help move the historic Andrews House group to move and protect this house. Simple. That's what I want. So there's no, what is Susan asking for? It's right there in the front. I sat on the Historic Preservation Board for years. We were doing great things. We were winning nationwide awards. We had, Warren Adams. We were like the delight of the rest of the world on historic preservation, and it all fell apart. We desperately need a historic preservation person back. And we also need for you guys to listen to our board. Our board has repeatedly, and I'm not sitting on the board anymore, but our board has repeatedly asked to protect this home, and you've been told otherwise. So please go back. You all get the minutes from all these board meetings. Go back and read them. See what really has been going on in the Historic Preservation Board. It is a quasi-judicial board. It's one of your few, oh, that's right, it's your only remaining quasi-judicial board now that Planning P&D is gone. Take the time to read the minutes and see what's really going on. See that these people have been working for months, if not years, to save this house. Please listen to your board. The residents obviously want historic preservation because while they might not all reach out to you, they're definitely reaching out to Barb and I and this handful that are showing up in white tonight. We are hearing from the residents. We are hearing from our neighbors and our friends. We are hearing from our coworkers that aren't even on Facebook or follow any of this, that they care and they know that history matters. So please save our history. Please consider moving the house over next to the Magnuson house. That would be a perfect location as other people have said. We want to have a place for people to go. Well, why not put a bunch of little boutiques? Those people being kicked out of the industrial buildings, artsy living, those kind of places, put them in these little houses. We need boutiques. We need a destination space. And I will say no to the developer's demo permits that were signed off on November 1st, because after a week and a half of trying to get these, I finally got them this afternoon. Thank you, Adam, for getting me the permits I requested over a week ago. And I want to finish this with saying save the historic Andrews House and move the historic Andrews House, so there's no question about what we want. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I have a different perspective.
Your name.
My name is Mark George. I've lived in the city for over 24 years now. I am a community real estate development professional. I am certified as such. I know the developer. I know his land planner. This project has been in the works for several years. I will tell you that I was part of a CRA board that moved a historical house. Myself, Reverend Hay, as well. We made a historical building into a point of use, and it is still in use to this day on Ocean Avenue. We moved it from First to First. It was at First and First, and we moved it to Ocean Avenue. You can do that again with the Andrews House. You know how to do it. The funds, you can either use city funds or you can use CRA funds because it is in the CRA district. What I'm telling you is you can preserve history and you can still have this development project work. The rest of his development project can happen. This house can be moved. The developer, I'd even have you talk to the developer and see if he would contribute funds to moving this house. His project is still going to go forward. That house can be moved. You can have a win-win-win all the way around. You have the community that has spoken very clearly that they want this house to be moved and preserved. You've done it before, you can do it again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Reedy. I chair your Historic Resources Preservation Board. Well, it's been a year since I delivered the Historic Resources report last year. Can't believe it's been a year already. Number one on that list was, and still is, designating and protecting the Andrews House. I have right here the actual report that we contracted with Warren Adams to write and paid Warren Adams to do. And I wanted to read you a little bit. It says, the property at 306 Southeast First Avenue is the earliest surviving residential structure in the city and is a rare remaining example of the wood frame vernacular style. Although altered and relocated 37 feet to the east from the original site, the structure was built during the pioneer era and retains sufficient integrity and characteristics to convey its architectural significance, and is associated with several pioneer families who contributed to the early development of the city. I think there's a lot of interesting information in the report on the actual thing. In this room tonight are descendants of Boynton's pioneers. We've formed a group and we're willing to help raise funds to help with moving and saving the Andrews House. We respectfully ask that the Commission/CRA resolve to please help us in this effort by committing to saving it as well. We will need city muscle to succeed. Perhaps we can convince the developer to donate whatever demolition funds to our effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, we have another podium. We can go back and forth.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, staff. My name is Jim Sizik, and I live at Southwest 15th Street. I'd like to speak on 3 quick issues here. First of all, I want to thank you very much for your support of the veteran community. Secondly, I'd like some clarification. I absolutely approve. There's a series of designated parking spaces outside for the staff, and I think it's long overdue that they have that kind of recognition. My concern is that only during business hours? If I was to park out there today, would I get a ticket? I'd just like to know if it's reasonable for those of us that are coming to these meetings could park there without fear of any repercussions. Simple thing. Third thing I wanted to talk about is I am also part of the leadership, along with Sandra, of the Senior Advisory Board. I want to thank the commissioners that brought up the fact of the $10,000 that the commission and the city staff allocated to us under the recreation budget this past year. Unfortunately, administrative issues that having to do with quorums and stuff did not allow us to fulfill some of the directions and some of the initiatives that we wanted to do for the senior community. What's key is the city of Delray has a program that allows for cooperative monies to be offered up when they're going to have an event for seniors. Boynton Beach doesn't have such a thing. The $10,000 that we thought was going to be carried over didn't get carried over. We're not looking to burden anybody with it, but it's a very, very worthwhile cause to allow us to take care of the veterans in this community. Other cities, we have a lot of our veterans that will go to other municipalities, pay fees to be part of their social groups just so they can go on trips. It seems like a small thing, but for some of our senior community, that's all they have, and we're looking to try to take care of them. I can tell you that we have nothing but the noblest intentions to take care of our seniors with whatever monies you can find to allocate to the advisory board. I thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello, good evening, Commissioners, Mayor. Wanted to say happy holidays, Merry Christmas to everyone. Hope your Thanksgiving was great. My name is Court McQuire. I live in the Chapel Hill area on Whispering Pines. And I came here to speak about the historical preservation in this particular home. I was there when the media was present. And I think everybody, even on the dais in the community, realizes that that's part of our history and part of our fabric, and we all want to make efforts to protect and preserve that. I think where the problem really is, why did it take to the last minute? Why was only a few members of the commission notified? Why wasn't, as a member of the CRA Advisory Board, who has spoken in public forum about saving this home and joining them, perhaps creating a pioneer village as mentioned before, why has it not been given to us or the community? Where is the transparency, and how could it come to that critical juncture? Furthermore, I'd like to say, as members of the CRA and Commission, it's important that you basically get the developer in this process at early stages. That's how you solve this problem. You don't wait to the last minute. I believe that the Enders House is a critical part of our community. There's a lot of solutions thrown out here today, and I agree with a lot of them. Secondly, I'd like to address a personal attack I was unexpected to receive by a Mr. David Katz, who is basically a little soldier for special interests in the city, saying things that are not accurate about myself. I find offensive. I think the word landslide was used in my loss in District 3. No, it went to a runoff, one of the only ones in the county. It was a very close race, and it was very hard, and I'm proud to have run that race. Also, mentioning about height restrictions or development, let me tell you, I have spoken on public record about this city allowing apartment doors by droves and minimal retail or destination entertainment for our community. Yes, I believe our community needs more retail, more restaurant, it's a desert, and more destinations for our families. So that said, I am a candidate for mayor, as was mentioned. Again, this is Court McGuire, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening. I'm Sandra Watson. I'm so glad to see you guys. I'm here for two things. The first thing is the Boynton Beach Women's Club. They're having their 100th birthday bash in 2025, and they need your help. So I'm coming on behalf of them because I am a member. And so Commissioner Turkins, they told me to ask you specifically to give them some assistance. They are a group of wonderful women. They're trying to plan this, and so they do need the help of the commissioners. Okay, second, the Senior Advisory Board. We are so thankful for what you did as far as putting something in so that we could do something for the seniors in Boynton. However, we've kind of hit a little block, a little roadblock. The Recreation Department really don't know how to allocate that for us. They can only go by how they used to do things, and how they do it won't work for what you put in because we just put that in as something brand new. So what they did was, according to them, they put it in their general budget, and since we didn't have a quorum and we now have a full board, we can meet and we plan. They put it back in the general fund. And so now when we had a meeting yesterday, they said that we couldn't use the money. So I don't know how to get around that. So I'm coming to the commissioners because we've already kind of like planned a senior prom, and we would like to go forward with that. However, there's something that needs to be done, and I think we need to kind of like meet all together, and you can give them some instructions on how they need to handle that, because it's not done the normal way they do their recreation budget. And so they just left it there, and they didn't know what to do. They didn't ask anybody. No one told them. So we're kind of like at a roadblock. So if we could get a little assistance with that, we would be more than grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next speaker. Either one. Yeah. Could you turn on the mic, please? State your name for the record and begin.
Victor Martell. First of all, I hope you guys had a blessed Thanksgiving. I really appreciate your time, Mayor and your commissioners. I have to say, first of all, to transparency, I'm not a resident of Boynton Beach. I'm a resident of Ocean Ridge, and I'm here for the same reason. I care as much about this history as everybody else. Ocean Ridge looks at everybody here as one family, and that building is something that we can't put back. Everybody cares about it. I think everybody up there does. You know, we wouldn't be here without the history that we had and that we have. And it would be an atrocity to take that down. I would just say to each and every one of you and everybody in the audience, just look in your heart and see that it's something we can't replace. And it's not something I would tell you to take lightly. Money's a good thing, but history, and my family loves history, and we drive by it every day. And it's, to us, it's just a little treasure that we look at and, you know, and appreciate. My son is a huge history buff, and I look at that, and I thank Ginger Peterson, who wrote a fantastic book that I just read, and it was just makes me even more excited about the history. And we've been here 30 years, and I'm not moving. I love this place. So God bless you, and I hope you have a great Christmas and New Year's. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Randall Gill, and I'm the past president of the Boynton Beach Historical Society and also pastor emeritus of the First Presbyterian Church of Boynton Beach. And I've been a resident for 30 years here in Boynton Beach. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to work with the city on different projects, and I was honored to be chosen by the mayor to work on the Vision Committee which was a group of 100 residents who represented different groups in the city. And the one thing that we really agreed on was trying to build up the downtown, to go back to a coastal image, to encourage people to come downtown and to see the beauty of our area. And over the years, we are very grateful for the support of the commissioners and the mayor for saving our high school, which is now a beautiful cultural center benefiting all the residents, and the Children's Museum, as we've heard about again tonight. And now we look to save the Andrews home. And it's a great opportunity for all of us. And people have talked about the reasons for saving it. For me, I think it's an opportunity for it to be a symbol of a more gentle time from 1909 when people treated each other with respect. They didn't call each other a lot of names. There was more dignity and more grace during that time period. And maybe the Andrews House will be symbolic of that as we seek to move it and restore it. Right around the corner was a doctor by the name of Dr. Weems. Marion Weems came from North Carolina, and he served our community from 1925 for 45 years. He could have gone other places, but he stayed here in Boynton. And the reason I want to mention Dr. Weems was that he was the good doctor. He welcomed people of all races. He delivered 7,000 babies in this community. 7,000. Are there some babies here that were born? Well, he's been gone a while, but generally when I mention that, somebody says, I was delivered as a baby. So I leave you with that. We
Thank
want to
you.
be more like Dr. Weems.
Thank you so
God
much.
bless you.
You too. Next speaker, state your name for the record and begin when you're ready.
Good evening. My name is Flynn Holland, and I have 2 points to make. One, the amnesty for the bulk. I saw as an email, I talked to my husband, he called up the waste management, and they said that it is not existing. So there has to be more information because it's coming up really soon. And it's secondhand. I didn't call, my husband did. And they said, no, we just do bulk amnesty in May. We do not do it now. So it's something to pass on to you guys. The other thing is I am for keeping the Andrews House. I walk by there all the time. It's like the little magic house right along the train tracks. It gives you history. It's a beautiful place. I wish I had been able to go in when Katz had worked with it. I've been here 30 years, and we walk along there. There's all those cats there and everything. But it's a beautiful house, and when you look since it's already been moved, it really has the capacity to be lifted and moved. You're not going to have a hard time trying to take it away from the top part of the business. And then when we saw all of the pictures of it, it is gorgeous in there. You know, I really sustain the old growth forests and wood, and I do think it's an asset to the community. And like they said, what's being lost in the development, Art and Sea Living, they're looking desperately for a place to rent. It would be either that or the Magnuson House, those people that are going to be displaced, because I've seen all along as we develop, businesses that are here are gone. You know, when all of those developments, 26 on Federal and Ocean, when that was torn down, it sat there empty for 14 years. 26 businesses left, never came back into our community. I think we need to, make sure that our community stays, our small businesses. When we did the charrette years ago, we said, We wanted small business, local business to be in our community. And what I see now with the development going on is very little is becoming commercial or walkable through the area. It just looks like it's going to be, you know, our downtown will be enclosed. So I really want you to think hard about the Andrews House and know that it's beautiful. We had gotten together and near the Magnuson, or somebody brought up Pence Park. The problem with Pence Park is it's so utilized by so many people in the community playing games and stuff that I just fear that if you start encroaching on it, we won't have that park anymore. And it's a good one. So thank you so much and have a good holiday.
Thank you. All right, next speaker.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Mary Law. I have Law Real Estate in the Law Building in downtown Boynton. It's been there for, I've had my real estate business there for probably over 45 years. I'd like to see y'all save the Andrews House. The few remaining historic homes and business properties are important to save as they give the future generations a view of what Boynton Beach looked like in the early 1900s. They show the interesting craftsmanship and the special lumber and other materials used in the buildings, which we don't see in today's buildings, which are mainly built of concrete. This is your legacy of the history you preserve while you were in office in this city. Thank you for considering this request, as my real estate office on US 1 will be in the same situation in the future, and I do hope it can be preserved. I have owned it and preserved it for over 45 years. And I'll tell you something about the Andrews House. If you get a chance to go in there, I'm willing to bet you that most of you don't know what knob and tube wiring is. Very few people know, and that's the original wiring that we had in these frame homes. And Bob Katz or whoever did that did a display of it in the house. And it's worth seeing. The other thing is there's a piece of equipment in there. I've never seen it before, but it's an old invention teaching how to open a coconut. And there's a lot of other things in that house that they put in there on display so we would be educated. So I do hope you'll consider saving it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Hi.
Hi, my name is Ann Rimler. I'm the president of the Boynton Beach Historical Society. I would like to thank you for your recent donation. We are grateful and appreciate your continued support. I would also like to say we stand firmly behind with and collaborate with the MOVE, the historic Andrews House, and we ask that you take all necessary steps as quickly as possible to ensure that it is preserved and becomes, like the Arts and Cultural Center, a real gem in Boynton Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the chambers? If not, I'll go to those online. I see one person waiting online. We have a Luann Moore. IT, please unmute Ms. Moore, and you may begin when you're ready. I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining on the clock so you can pace yourself. Ms. Moore? Yes. I think I heard something. She's on video? I'm sorry. Ms. Moore, 1 second. We can barely hear you. IT?
Hello?
That was better. All right. We'll start the timer. State your name for the record and you may begin.
Hello?
Hi. You may begin. We can hear you now.
I can begin now. Okay. Good evening. I'm Luann Moore. I'd like to address a matter I sent in a letter for public comment for the last meeting of November 19th.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We are struggling to hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me?
That's better.
That was better? All right, try again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. I'm seeing head nods.
I'm Luann Moore, and I'd like to address, a letter I sent in for public comment to the meeting of November 19th regarding the telecommunications in light of the legal status of the Federal Communications Human Exposure Guidelines for radio frequency microwave radiation and the decision of the federal agency to cease any further study. I am again requesting review and update of city's 2000.
All right, I'm so sorry, but we are having some technical issues. We will try again. Thank you so much, Ms. Moore. As an alternative, there's always email. IT, please work on it so we can make sure that this doesn't happen again. Thank you so much. We're going to continue with the rest of the meeting while IT works on this. The next portion of the agenda is administrative, 5A, advisory board appointments. Let me pull up the list. All right, so the very first item here is the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. We have 3 applicants, Michael Corbett, Carrie Linton, Christopher Plummer. The nomination belongs to myself, a citizen who is actively engaged as a for-profit provider of affordable housing, and I don't see one of the applicants who qualify for that. Say that one more time. Christopher Plummer. It says not for profit. It says not for profit provider.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's go down the list. Vice Mayor,
I do not have
I believe if we go down the list to you, that criteria belongs to you. Citizen who's actively engaged, does that qualify? Note, that does not qualify either.
I think it's Commissioner Turkin that has the one. That
Yes,
Employees
citizens
within the
represent-
jurisdiction.
Yep.
All right, so there's only one. All right, go ahead, Commissioner, if you'd like to
Head
make
and
a-
nominate Michael Corbett.
All right, we have a nomination for Michael Corbett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Hay. All those in favor of appointing Michael Corbett to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, say aye. Aye. All right, motion passes unanimously.
There is, Commissioner Hay has the citizens who represent areas of labor actively engaged in home. That seems like that has a candidate
All right,
also.
that matches.
And then also you have the last one as well that qualifies also.
That qualifies, because I thought it said
You have
not-for-profit.
Your last one, your last
Oh,
nominee.
I see it. There's a repeat.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Hay, would you like to make a nomination?
Yes, what was that first name?
Carrie Linton.
Yeah, Carrie Linton. All right, we have a nomination of Carrie Linton from Commissioner Hay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second from Vice Mayor. All those in favor of appointing Carrie Linton, Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes unanimously. And for myself, I will nominate Christopher Plummer. Is there a second to that?
Second.
All right, second from Vice Mayor. All those in favor of appointing Christopher Plummer, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes unanimously. The Art Advisory Board, no applicants. Building Board of Adjustments and Appeals, no applicants. Education and Youth Advisory Board has a position with no applicants. Historic Resources Preservation Board, we have no applicants for that. Recreation and Parks Board and Senior Advisory Boards have no applicants, but they have positions available. All right, thank you so much. The next portion of the agenda, Commissioner Hay, you had requested to allocate $500 of your community support funds. Did I remember that correctly?
Yes,
And this was for the basket drive,
right, the holiday dinner basket, dinner baskets.
with the city? Yep.
500.
All right. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Vice Mayor, all those in favor of allocating the $500 of community support funds, say aye. Aye. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We're now moving on to consent agenda. We have a shorter list than usual. Are there any items you'd like to pull from the list for discussion? We have a motion to approve consent agenda and a second from Commissioner Hay. All those in favor of approving consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right, consent bids and purchases over $100,000 Anything here that my colleagues would like to pull? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
Second.
I'm sorry, was there something you wanted to pull, Commissioner?
Yes, 7D, real quick on the
7D?
7D on the pool.
Pool?
All right, so we'll pull 7D. We already have a motion to approve the remainder of consent agenda, and you were the second, Commissioner Hay? Was there a second to approve the
Yeah, I
remainder?
did, second.
All right, all those in favor of the motion to approve the remainder of consent bids and purchases, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes unanimously. Let's now turn to item 7D, proposed resolution R24-314, approve the purchase of the replacement of pool heaters at Denson Pool related to the project Denson Pool Heater Replacement with Symbiotic Service Corp., which is scheduled for the fiscal year 25 proposed and adopted Fund 303 CIP plan for a budgeted amount of $100,000. Mr. Ramsey, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm
Mayor, Commissioner, Vice Mayor. This is to replace the pool heater at Denson Pool. It's done its life cycle, and it's due to replace. So that's what this is about. That simple. Mr. Durkin, you have a question?
Yeah, the reason I pulled this item, I had a resident come up to me yesterday evening saying that there was potential fees. Is there fees being used for Denson Pool? Do we charge a fee for that? So the story was that there's fees and that they were going to be increasing. And so what this resident had wanted was to not increase them for our senior residents. So
Yes,
that's where I'm getting at with this.
Oh, okay. Yes, we did a few fee adjustments in the previous meeting that was approved. It's not directly correlated to these heaters that just went out. There's actually two of them that both failed. They've reached the end of their life cycle. But that is a completely different thing. It's not related to the replacement of these items here.
What was that fee increase?
It was pretty much $1 for most folks in the city here, and we made a separate rate for residents and non-residents. It's a 25% higher for non-residents than it is, so it may be $4 for residents and $5 for non.
Okay, and there's no senior rate?
There is no senior rate at the moment, but that's something that we can look into.
Yeah, I'd like to maybe add that on a future agenda item.
Sure.
If
No
we can,
problem.
If it's okay with my colleagues.
Absolutely, no problem.
All right,
Mayor,
thank you.
Mayor.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Sorry, thank you. Fabian, before you leave, I wanted to give you props since we're talking about this. It was pulled, and so I'm going to talk about it for just a minute because I was going to ask after if it passed to just thank you. You know, when word got out about the pool being shut down because of the pool heater, I got a couple emails. I got one of my residents reached out because it's a facility that she uses on a regular basis, and I came to you and Andrew and said, what can we do in the meantime, because there was delays, and you and your team worked really hard to find an alternative and also a reimbursement to our residents to swim at a pool in a nearby city. And so I just wanted to thank you for really working hard to make sure that when we do have these lapses in services, that our residents really are treated first, and that, there's priority when our services are down. So I just wanted to give you a thank you for really putting in the effort to make sure that our residents who depend on this pool for exercise and daily use have the ability to swim elsewhere. So thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else all right. Let's continue with the rest of the agenda. We're now, oh, that's right, I'm sorry.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second from Commissioner Hay. Thank you so much, gentlemen. All those in favor of approving 7D, say aye.
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 Aye. All right, motion passes unanimously. Next portion of the agenda is the regular agenda, 10A, discussion on the palette color chart to choose for the Project Ocean Avenue streetlight improvements. Who would like to take this on? Deputy City Manager, or who would you assign this to?
We have a project manager, Jose Murray. He's going to come up and talk about the project.
All right, come on up, sir. Vice Mayor, going to.
Okay, good evening.
Jose Murray, Project Manager, Public Works. Tonight, just wanted to open a discussion for the palette color for the street lighting on Ocean Avenue. I'm working on a project to repaint all the light poles and convert to LEDs.
Is the microphone on, or maybe move it a little bit closer? It's just a little bit.
Is that better?
Yeah, perfect, thank you.
Perfect, okay, cool. So the location is Ocean Avenue from Federal, over the bridge, under the bridge, and on the city right-of-way on Banana Boat Avenue, or Banana Boat Way. And the request we're asking is just to have some guidance on the color choice, whether we stick with the original teal turquoise color or move to black. We had a project last year where we had painted the light poles on Boynton Beach Boulevard black, so just looking for some guidance. Here on this slide is a picture of our Ocean Avenue Bridge in the current teal color. And then we have a picture of the teal color and the black color. Just some things to think about are replacement parts when it comes to the heads. They do come in black. We would have to repaint them teal. They don't come in teal color. I've had some conversations with Town of Ocean Ridge, and they are starting to move forward with converting their lights from the bridge east to A1A to FP&L, and those soon will be black. If we ever want, City of Boynton wants to convert to FP&L, teal will not be available. And then lastly, just a community input. I know there was a poll that went out, and it looks like 84% of citizens like the teal color. So, yeah, in conclusion, we're just looking for guidance on the color so we can move forward with the project.
Thank you.
How many participated in this survey?
It was 905 residents.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Turkin, I saw your hand up. Do you have any questions?
Nope. The people spoke. I was following on Facebook too, and everyone's pushing people to vote and pushing people to vote. Everyone's saying teal in the comments anyways, but 84%, that's a mandate. So I'm with teal.
Commissioner Hay?
Yeah, I'd just like to say this is a project that I've been talking about for years, because I feel that the teal, or turquoise, or whatever color you want to call it, adds a certain character to the city, and it's unique. Even when the bridge was built, people would come from miles around just to take pictures of that beautiful bridge, and it was teal. And I felt that when we built the town square, we made the poles black, and it just sort of tore into the continuity from Federal Highway East and Federal Highway West was just the opposite. So I'm glad that the people have spoken, and I feel that the color teal will add beauty to our city. I have a strong feeling about that. So I'm glad to hear the people speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with the consensus of teal. I think that, I know I had asked at the last meeting, I guess we weren't able to find out what they looked like when they were originally painted, because they're very faded now, and I'm sure once they are freshly painted, it will pop like it did in
The survey, they actually rendered the color, so it
okay.
actually looked like the original. We just didn't have it for the presentation
For the
yet.
presentation,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you. Yeah, I just think black is a little too stark and dark for our bridge, so that's my position on that.
I would like to say, if I may, to Andrew and to the staff, the next time we paint those poles in the roundabouts, especially in District 2, don't paint them the color that we have them now. Make them back teal like they used to be. They were teal, but they peel off so badly, you know, over 20, 30 years since they've been painted. But the next time we do that, let's paint them back with the teal, okay? I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Has everyone had a chance to speak? Commissioner Cruz, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, I support the teal, absolutely. And I think it continues to give the vibe of a coastal city, which we are. And it's an important part of our character and our heritage. So I would definitely support the teal. And I want to give thanks to staff for putting this survey together. I think it's important. We had over 900 people take that survey, so we appreciate it. It's important that we get feedback from the community. So thank you for helping us do that. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Very good.
All right, so we have clear direction to staff. That's all you need? All right, let's keep going. Thank you so much for the presentation. We're moving on to item 10B, discussion regarding residency requirements for election. Commissioner Turkin, this was your request. Would you like to begin?
I have a
There's
presentation.
a PowerPoint.
I have
you
a
have a
PowerPoint for
presentation
this,
ready to go?
correct.
Okay.
Maylee, can you do the clicker for me or give it to? Thank you. Okay. So one of the things that was requested was whether, currently right now, we have very little things as to what is required. You have the state requirements, but then we have a few things that are required, which is an affidavit of 1 year or less, as well as being 21 years of age and 25 petitions for qualification, as well as the voter registration card. So I have looked at other cities and what some of the other cities are doing because we don't have anything that requires proof of actual residency. Next. Maybe. Okay, so I think part of the confusion comes in because the city clerk's position, and there's actually a statute on this, that their function in review of this is only to review that the forms are facially completed and are what they say they are. Is this an actual voter registration card? She, as the clerk or whatever clerk we may have, has no authority whatsoever to verify whether any of the information provided by a candidate is accurate. Next. So if there is a challenge to a residency, the only entities that can bring that would be the supervisor of elections, the opposing candidate, or registered voters. And other than filing a formal complaint to an election authority, it's really left with the registered voters or the opposing candidate filing a complaint in civil court challenging the residency. Next. Okay, so again, our requirements, and I haven't included any of the state requirements, right? These are just what we require, the city requires, in addition to what the state requires. So again, the voter registration, the affidavit, proof of residency for 1 year. However, it doesn't state what that proof of residency is. Typically, it's going to be a driver's license that just shows an address for a 1 year period, 21 years of age, the fees, and as I said, the 25 petitions. Next. So the city of West Palm Beach recently had this come up, and so they've gone a little bit further. They have the affidavit, the voter registration card, the proof of residency, and then you have to provide one of the Florida registration card, the driver's license, or the Florida ID card. And in addition, a deed, a property tax receipt, a homestead exemption, a lease agreement, a Florida vehicle registration, or a utility bill, plus the qualifying fee. Next. The city of Boca Raton also has an ordinance which requires, again, the affidavit, the proof of residency, and then 2 or more of the following documents, which you can see is the voter registration card, the driver's license, the ID card, the deed, a property tax, homestead exemption, lease agreement, or utility bill, and the qualifying fee. Now, the most comprehensive one I have seen, next, Maylee, is with the city of Doral. So they, like us, also require the registration, the 25 petitions. They also want a biography or resume with the candidate. And then with a proof of residency, they require 2 years. But these are a combination of the following documents. And it wasn't exactly clear how many combination. I'm assuming it's 2 or more. But it's, again, lease agreements for the 2-year period, a proof of home ownership with the city for at least 2 years, voter registration, driver's license, utility bills in the candidate's name for the 2-year period, copies of the candidate's filing income taxes, returns using the city address. But they also require that the candidate agree to maintain actual legal residence for the duration of the term in the city. That is something we do not have, the qualifying fee. And what was interesting, I thought this is one, and I haven't done an election as your city attorney yet. I don't know if you have this, but they require a sign bond of $500, which requires that the bond is only returned upon removal of all political signs within 7 calendar days of the election. Otherwise, they forfeit that $500 to the city for removal of those signs. So I just wanted some direction, if this is something the commission is interested in, and then if it is, kind of what things you would be interested in, and then I would put together a proposed ordinance for the board.
All right, thank you, council. Commissioner Turkin, since this was your request, I want to let you be the first to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I think there's some tightening up that needs to be done if you look at our current code. And it's not fair to the mailee or any city clerk to get the pressure of, the question of can this person qualify or not. That's our job as an elected body to ensure that we have those mechanisms in place. Right now you can have a voter ID or a voter registration card and a driver's license. And if they have an address, you could essentially not live in the city, and then you could be a representative of the city, which I don't think, and I would imagine if we did a survey, we would probably see a similar percentage to how popular Teal is, that someone should be able to be verified to live in the city and spend people's tax dollars. And so I think that we definitely need to stricten this up. I'd like to see an ordinance after March, right? Nothing now, obviously, but or be effective after March into the next election, right? And so I think, looking at, a lease agreement, not everyone can purchase a home, or maybe someone just doesn't want to purchase a home. Maybe when someone wants to rent, that's fine. A lease agreement's fair, A utility bill, I think that's fair, right? If someone's giving you in charge of a, $300 budget, they should be able to be financially responsible for themselves. And so, I think asking those questions and getting that verified is the bare minimum that we should have for our residents. And, I think I wouldn't be opposed to 2 years. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing a lease agreement or utility bill, or if it's a homeowner, you can verify that through PAPA. Obviously, those things are easy. But what we have is we have a vulnerability in our code to where you could have someone that doesn't live in the city, essentially, or lives elsewhere, that is in charge of our tax dollars and in charge of decision-making. And I don't think that's right, and I would bet that majority of residents think the same. And so this, whatever we decide to move forward with would be in respect to, good government, I think, and then again, it takes the pressure off, the city clerk who's dealing with all these candidates, if we have something that shows, hey, we need to see X, Y, and Z. So I'd like to hear from my colleagues and see what you guys think, but I think this is a pretty, simple idea, and I think it's, practical, and, it's kind of common sense, right? Like a city that manages, hundreds of millions of dollars should probably have a mechanism to make sure that the people actually live here, and they pay taxes, or if they're a homeowner, or, they actually live in the city with a lease agreement, pay utility bills, right? So that's where I'm at, and that's all I got. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let's turn now to our colleagues to get their thoughts. Let me just first kick it off by saying also that, I'm not in favor of making any changes right now, only because the cycle has already started. But for the future, I think having additional clarification language, I think could be a useful thing for the clerk and for the city. So I'm not opposed to it in principle. I think this is a very interesting topic of conversation. I definitely want to dig into this a little bit more, study what other cities are doing in detail, but I am interested in what it could be. But I need to come back with more details for the board. Let's begin. Go ahead, Commissioner Hay.
Yes, I would not want to make any changes that would be in effect in this particular election. I think the idea is a good one to take a look at where we are. But right now, I would not want to, like proof of residency, 2 years. I mean, I don't agree with that unless staff can show me some real advantages to that. What are the benefits to it? I would like to see the candidate or the commissioner or the elected official remain in the district or the city for the duration of their term. That sounds good to me. But I think at this point of the game, I would like to hear more pros and cons about what these changes might bring. And keep in mind, I would not want to put too many hoops for candidates to jump through because we have not that many candidates standing in line to be an official in the city of Boynton Beach. And I would not want to make it any more difficult, add difficulty to it. So I want us to be mindful of that, because even to be the president of the United States, I mean, you what, 35 years old and U.S. citizen? So what are we doing here? We don't want to tie our hands. So I think it's worth looking at, but I'm very cautious about making any major changes at this point.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Hay. Council, I see your hand is up.
I just wanted to clarify, and I apologize if I didn't clarify this. If we went forward with any changes now, they would not apply to the current candidates who have qualified, other than if we did change the maintain actual legal residence in the city, then that would apply at the time they were elected. So just to clarify that, it does not affect this election.
And I could go along with that. They should live in the city, they should live in their district, but for 2 years, no. And I still say that, you know, for the duration of their term, they should remain in their district. So that is clear and cut to me.
Yeah.
That's not even negotiable with me, okay? But other than that, Mayor, I would want to look at these things further before any decision be made for the future.
Thank you, Commissioner Hay. Listen, I'm on the same page as both of you gentlemen. I'm interested in looking at it. I need to come back with more, because what I'm concerned about are the loopholes. What are all the ways this could be abused? You know, for example, I think all of you know, I think the public knows, I have been, rumors have been spread about me about not living in the city, and that's just flat out not true. In fact, the rumor was, and I have no problem sharing it here, the rumor was I was in a relationship with someone living in another city. I was not in a relationship. I wish I was, but I was not in a relationship at that time, so that's not even true. But if an accusation were to be lodged, you know, what does that mean? Is someone gonna come to your house? Does that mean someone comes to your house every single time? No, I'm just throwing out hypothetical, counsel. So what I'm referring to are potential loopholes. I just wanna make sure that the system is airtight and it's not abused. That's all I'm trying to say, okay? Because any one of us could be accused of anything at any time. So I just wanna make sure we're prepared for that.
Clarify, this is only an ordinance that would relate to the documents they need to have to qualify.
I understand.
That's it. So
The
if
question is,
later
how do
on,
you check maintaining residence?
well, that,
Because, you know, here's an
Yeah.
easy loophole. Like, you know, one thing that comes right off the top of my head is some people have more than one property, right? So anyways, these are conversations that I think are worthy of having, so I definitely want to have them. Vice Mayor, let's turn to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I support further having this conversation, and I think I actually would, I kind of liked the 2-year because, and this is my reasoning, we have seen, or I have seen, a lot of potential candidates in other races and other places actually hopping from city to city and district to district, trying to find an empty spot or an easy win. And so I think that the longer that we can have someone who's committed to our city and that is truly here for the right reasons and not just to find an easy spot to for their next political stepping stone is, I would support that because I want, and support people on this dais who love the city as much as I do and want to see it succeed and not just have somebody up here who is here for their own political motivations or to just move their way up the political rung. So, I support a longer residency requirement for that reason because I've seen it where there is that hopping around from county to county and district to district on the state side to find an easy seat. So that's my position on that. I'm happy to continue having this conversation. I would like to see in the city of, it's Doral that has the most extensive one, what is their wording, which I know you just pulled out exactly like what the terms were, but what is their wording when it comes to maintaining? Is it just that they're signing an affidavit agreeing that they're going to do it? And then what do they say as far as penalty or what happens? So I would just be curious to see that and kind of delve into that a little bit more because I think that is important that we don't also have somebody who's elected who spends their weekdays in another city or another state and comes here for the meetings because that's the required thing is to show up for a meeting. So that's my position on that. So I'll keep it simple until our next conversation. Thank you.
Looking forward to it. Commissioner Cruz.
Right. I would support looking into this, as mentioned before, after the election. I do think it's important to make sure that the people representing our city live here. It's ideal to be able to own property in the city. That would be great. However, with the cost of home ownership, it's gone through the roof. I'll say, in response to what was just mentioned with regard to state races, those are a little bit different, but, we have seen that before at higher levels. For me specifically, I lived in District 3 as a renter before I was able to afford buying a home in District 1. And this is before I even thought about running for office at all. So I don't want to, especially with the cost of housing right now, I don't necessarily want to preclude people from having an opportunity to purchase a home potentially in another district the way that it happened to me personally. I was a renter and then became a homeowner within the same city in different districts. So I don't, again, specifically focused on the home ownership side. And I also wonder now, I hope that we've been doing well in the past with verifying our candidates, but it also brings the concern of how have we been doing this in the past and how have we really verified? So just, I don't know if this is a question I can ask, but has it been always the driver's license and the voter registration card? Is that what it's been?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. I see. Okay. So yeah, with that being said, I would support, looking further into it. But I don't want to preclude people from purchasing homes in a different district within the city if necessary.
So you could perhaps
also-
change the language just to say something to the effect of may stay in the city. There are different ways to,
And then one more thing I wanted to ask, maybe further information from our city attorney. I remember reading in the news many, many years before about a commissioner selling her home in that district and then purchasing another apartment within the same district within a week time frame. And I do remember people were trying to get her to not be qualified or to be dropped out of office, and she was able to prove that she purchased the other home a week before. So with that being said, just because I read it on the news many years ago, I think we might have something with regard to residency requirements requiring a commissioner to stay in office after being elected. I would just like maybe for us to look a little deeper, and maybe if we can provide that to the commission, because I'm confident that we might have something. So I just want to make sure that that's the case or not. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay.
Council.
I can provide the city of Doral specific ordinance and information to the board. I don't know if you want to see the city of West Palm Beach's and the city of Boca Raton's ordinance as well. I don't want to inundate you with information, but if that's something you find valuable, I'll certainly provide it.
Speaking for
I have
myself.
another, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. You could finish.
One more question. So we have 3 cities, right? One's not within the Palm Beach County and 2 are within Palm Beach County.
Correct.
What are the other cities doing? Like, for example, Wellington, Palm Beach Gardens.
They're silent
Del
as
Rey.
to it.
They're just like us.
Correct.
Understood. Okay. Thank you.
Correct. I provided Doral because I felt it was the most robust of the two, of the ones. There are others outside of our jurisdiction as we get further north, but you know, Doral was, at least within the Tri-County area, it was also the most robust. So this example was to show you kind of like the Cadillac version of what it was. But we could also, you know, as I said, I can provide West Palm and Bocas so that you can see it can be something simple, it can be something very robust, and all of those sorts of things. You know, it'd be up to the board.
Yeah, Council, I would like to see all of those cities that you've mentioned. Just email them to me and my colleagues.
And also the information about like staying, you know, what
Yes,
do we have
what
in
our
our
code.
code?
Correct.
Or maybe state law that, you know, but if we do have anything in our code, I would be interested to see that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Thank you. I do have one thing, if
ahead.
it's okay, Mayor.
Yep, go ahead.
So we are potentially close to wrapping up a new agreement with East Boynton Beach Little League. And before I bring that agreement for approval by the city commission, I would like to know if you would prefer a shade meeting to go over the specific details of what is going to be in that new agreement in detail versus just throwing it on an agenda, because I know it's been a hot button issue.
Yes.
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 Okay, then I, as the city attorney, would like to have a shade meeting because it is part of a litigation settlement, so I will need direction from the board, so I would request a shade meeting. My only issue is, do we think December 17th would be good for a shade meeting, Andrew? Correct.
Yes.
Okay,
Mayor.
we're just wrapping up a few last minute items, but okay, so I would like to request the shade meeting for December 17th, and like last time, we'll
Is
advertise.
that our regularly scheduled meeting?
It is.
So an hour before?
Now before?
No, we'll start the meeting at 6 o'clock.
Okay,
And
that's
then
fine.
it will go for as long as is required, and then we'll come back to the regular meeting, and hopefully at that time, we'll be prepared to vote on the actual
Okay.
item.
Andrew, do you have a sense of the length of the agenda for that meeting?
I think right now we have about 36 items, including the future agenda.
More?
So there's more items than tonight's, but it's not a heavy agenda. It's mostly consent. And we do have a public hearing item on there that night.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
That is.
Go
Mayor,
ahead, Vice Mayor.
real quick, as we're talking about dates, I have a personal conflict on December 17th. I wasn't going to bring it up, but since we're talking about having a shade meeting, I am not going to be at that meeting due to personal things that I have going on. So I just wanted to throw that out there that I won't be there. So I'm fine with you going forward with it. I can read the minutes, but I'm just alerting you that I won't be here for that meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner.
Just so that, because since Commissioner Kelly's not going to be here, is it possible for us to maybe have individual conversations with our city attorney and kind of is that something we could do? At least to give us a heads up with what's going on with the litigation or any updates as to where we are with the agreements or?
Yeah, that's what the shade meeting was going to be, and just make sure that you guys agree with the direction that we've reached, but we can do it individually as well. But
I can have the shade meeting, I just can meet with you
yeah,
separately. That's
okay, we
fine.
can do that. Thank you.
I do kind of think, can we get more information about the bond thing for picking up the signs?
Yeah, I
Like
can
you
do
see
that.
other cities do that, because I think that is important, and we see it all the time. Not
and-
just in local elections, but all the elections, signs are still up, you know. So making sure they're picked up after the election, I think is important.
I think that we can only require the bond with regard to our elections.
Right, okay, fair.
But honestly, the only place that I saw it was in fact in Doral. That's why I thought it was
Okay.
so interesting, because no other city has addressed that. So I don't know if they just have a big issue with it or not, but I did think if that is an issue we have here in the city, that maybe it's something we would require.
All right, thank you. Let me go back to the original topic, which is the shade meeting. Are we all set for the shade meeting? And you'll just have your own one-on-one first?
Yep, that's
Okay.
fine.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. We're going to move on to the item that people have been waiting for, which is about the Andrews House. All right. So we've heard from the public. Many of us have already made comments at the very beginning of the meeting. Personally, what I'd like to see is for our city to look into options on moving the property, look into how much it would cost, what companies would be involved. I don't know if we need to first do a structural analysis, if that already hasn't been done before moving. I figured a moving company would be able to tell us something like that. And also for staff to explore locations. I heard one location this evening, the Magnuson House, or next to it. But if there are other better ideas, I'm open to it. So that's where I'm coming from. Commissioner Turkin.
Thank you, Mayor. No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Steve and Mike Fitzpatrick, we all went out and measured the property, measured the Magnuson House. There's a little walking path there. It's not gonna get in the way of that area. But I think there is room to move it to the Magnuson House. There are some trees right there that would need to be addressed. You know, the questions are, how do we move it, the funding? So that's why I brought up, you know, looking at maybe amending our art impact fee to include historic preservation, or at least an option, you know, if a builder or developer pays in lieu of, you know, we can use those funds for something like this. And not just moving a house, but if we wanted to restore or renovate or activate a historic home, we would then have a funding mechanism, and then that alleviates the tax burdens from the residents, right? And you don't have to count on a private entity to try to raise funds at the last minute. So, you know, I think creating a funding mechanism is like a win-win-win, you know, for the private sector, for us, for the residents, historical society, you know, and it creates a fund to where we can explore and do more for historic preservation. You know, I'm not an expert at that. That's why we have a board. But, you know, boards are great. If we don't have the ability or the funding to do anything, you know, what are we really accomplishing? So I think, like, I would ask my colleagues to support staff exploring that. And if that's something that we can do, I think, you know, we solve one of the problems. Mayor, you talked about the structural analysis. Can this actually be moved? If it can, who's paying for it, right? And so if we have the ability to take it off the taxpayers, I think there's an opportunity there, you know? And so that's what I'd like to see, you know? But, you know, obviously, you know, structural analysis, maybe there's an economic analysis too, to activate that area next to the Magnuson House with the Andrews House, if that's where it goes. So that's where I'm at. And, you know, I know there's a lot, if we move forward with this, you know, I will say, I would like to see the city work with Mike Fitzpatrick. He's, you know, been working on this day in and day out. And, you know, I think it's good to have the community involvement and someone who wants to participate, you know, and having that whole committee be side by side with the city as we move forward.
Yeah, I want to echo that sentiment that you just mentioned there about having our staff work with the residents on this that are deeply passionate about saving this home. I think it's always good to have their support and their input. I also want to mention that in addition to funding, I want to share with my colleagues here that when I spoke to the residents, I know that they made a commitment to help fundraise, to help move this property. The question was, how much? Which they don't know, I don't know. So that we'll only know after we reach out to some companies and they'll give us some quotes or estimates. But I also want us to take a look at if it's something we can do, because the CRA, and I know I don't want to have a CRA conversation here, so I'll make a comment and then nobody respond to it. The CRA can jump in only if there is an adaptive reuse of the property. That is to say that we're not just moving it to move it, we're moving it because we're transforming it into a potential economic engine. Now, this property has waited many, many years and nobody has stepped up, and I would love to see someone step up. I know someone almost did, well, they did, but didn't follow through with the Magnuson House about a potential restaurant. But I don't know what the next step should be, but I would love for us to maybe put something out, after we move it. Does anybody have any great ideas of how we can adaptively reuse this property, whether it's a store or a cafe, whatever it may be? And there's a fundamental problem of, because of its age, there's a lot of upkeep that needs to be done to make it meet today's codes. So a small business could not afford, however, that much would cost. So now we've got a fundamental problem. We want small businesses to go in there, but who can afford to do that? So those are the conversations I want to have moving forward. But anyways, let's go around. If there's anything, you're good? Are you on the same page?
Yeah, we're on the same page.
We're on the same page, okay.
That, and I really would like, I'm in favor of moving it, but as been already stated, without going over that again, they need, bring back location, potential, possibilities, what we can do, just what has been said. So we're on the same page.
Thank you. Okay. All right, Vice Mayor?
No, I agree. I mean, I have had multiple conversations. I had multiple conversations with staff, with the owner of the land and the current location of the home, and have had many conversations about what to do, and so I am in support of this. My concern, like you, Mayor, is now, then what?
Right.
Because, we did have that potential, concept come up with Magnuson, and actually, in hindsight, I'm kind of glad it didn't go through, because when we delved deep into it, we learned that they had the ability to ask to demo it, which was hidden within some of the language. So I was actually glad that it didn't go through, because I really feared that the house was going to get torn down. That was something that I was very vocal about in that meeting. But, it is one thing to preserve history, but if we're preserving it and moving it just to one day, have it then fall apart on its own, then what are we doing? And so, like you said, the Magnuson House was going to be the home of the CRA several years ago, and because of the cost to make it work, they decided it was easier to not do it. And so I want to make sure that we're not doing this for naught. I am in full support of it, but I also want to make sure that we're being cognizant of, once we do this, now what? So that it, and also that it makes sense where it's going to be, so that it's not just like zero lot line homes, because we want to shove them on the same lot to make it so that there's two old homes next to each other. Is to be, to be mindful and to take our time, because as I understand it, and maybe if we can get some, written confirmation from the owner, we're not up against a time clock, so to speak, is my understanding with the owner. So I want to make sure that we're being very thorough in options in the process, and we're not just rushing just to do it. We're going to do it right. So those are my thoughts on that.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Cruz, your thoughts?
Yep, thank you, Mayor. No, I support saving the history and the heritage of the city with the Andrews House. I think it's important to, ideally, it would be great to move it to another location and maybe make it maybe a museum. I don't know. Again, I understand, as Commissioner Kelly stated, and Mayor, as you stated as well, we have to be proactive and not reactive, and there's definitely a lot of potential costs involved. But I think that, as long as we have the will, as we've discussed, and it looks like we all do have that will, to work together to find a solution, I think that's where that's what really matters, is that we have a collective will to work on this, to find a solution, and to see how much it's going to cost, and to find the funding sources and plan for the future. That's our job now.
Thank you. And I've already heard some great ideas from residents. Maybe it's part of the welcoming center. Maybe it's a community space people can use to rent to host their meetings. I heard maybe the Historical Society could have their meetings there. Maybe the Kiwanis group or whatever group could have their meetings there. So there's some ideas floating around. I definitely want to get together with the residents again to get more input. I have a question for staff. Andrew, I've never had to do this before in my time in office. How long do you think approximately it would take to reach out to companies, get quotes for moving of the property? What's your estimate? And keep in mind, we've got the holidays too, so.
I think we can have the cost identified. Well, let me preface that. I can tell you, I was here when they moved the other house. They called it the little house, when it came down the street on the trailer, and they had to take down wires, and they moved it. When they did move it, it got moved, but then they had a lot of significant work just to bring it back up to code, like you mentioned, and just to safeten it up. This house, I know, is in a little bit better shape than that one was, but we can definitely identify those costs here, probably within 30 days, at least have some good idea what the cost would be. The time to get it done will be more factored, in my opinion, because, there's permitting, there's a lot of different variables there that would be required. That's more of your time clock, is to get the work done than it is to actually identify the costs.
Understood. But at least by moving it, we will have bought some time. But okay, so 30 days just to get numbers, because I want to share that information with the residents. If they want to help fundraise, then.
Let me preface that, we already at holidays too, so.
Yes, that's what I
So
mean by-
probably 30 days, probably by the end of January, we should be able to have a good
Okay.
proposals and numbers back to you guys.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you so much to staff and every commissioner. Yes.
Yep. So I just want to reiterate, so we heard from every single one of us, cost. So I think having staff, if you guys are okay with it, propose some type of alternative or scenario to where we can create a funding mechanism from developers instead of residents, like a police impact fee, parks impact fee, something to take the burden off the city and its taxpayers. We can move quicker on this, right? And so if time is of the essence, I think if there's an opportunity to incorporate the historic portion into the art impact fee, that's something that already exists, or maybe do a new one. I'm not sure what that looks like, but we can get it moved, but then what, right? If money's an issue, why don't we at least explore that in conjunction with how much it's gonna cost? How are we going to pay for it? Because we can get quotes all we want, but if we can't budget it and pay for it, we're not gonna get it done. And we are on a timeline. And so I don't want us, I want to make sure that we have a sense of urgency, not just in identifying and exploring the issue, but like coming up with an action plan and a timeline and how we're going to pay for it, right? And I know there's going to be some private fundraising, that's great, but what if that doesn't meet the threshold of where we need to be at? Well, maybe a mechanism is to incorporate, an impact fee that helps pay for it, right? And then again, in the future, we talk about the economic analysis of historic preservation. That's all fine and dandy, but if we can't pay for it, we can't achieve whatever strategic plan that we have for moving it, renovating it, restoring, whichever historic home we're looking at. So I think, this is a solution, not just for the St. Andrew's house, but for, generations to come, right? And then I think also too, it just allows the private sector more, flexibility to say, hey, I'm gonna buy this property, there's a historic home on it, the impact fee to move it, I'll go ahead and take care of it. And that way, that's proactive, right? So I think if you guys are okay with it, I'd like staff to explore that, some form of mechanism, because we can get the quotes, but, we gotta come up with the money. And so,
I thought that was part of the, sorry to interrupt you, but I thought that was you had proposed that, and I thought that was part of the
I
conversation.
just didn't know, no one like acknowledged it, so I was like, wasn't sure.
Yeah, I hope that staff took notes and knows that we want to try and figure out how to pay for it. I know that the mayor said, let's figure out what our options are, and if we can use, or if we have to modify the art impact fee language in order to utilize those funds so that we're not using taxpayer funds, then let's do that. I don't want to create a new impact fee.
Right, right.
That
I think-
adds more to the developer, but if we can utilize one of our other impact fees, I think that is something, and I hope staff was taking notes on what we wanted
Yeah,
them
and
to
that's why I brought up the
explore,
art,
so,
because I think that's an easier.
It's part of the conversation we need to have, and just
I
keep in
agree.
mind, we will get there.
I remember
Um,
sorry.
Let me just say one more thing, and that is, I don't expect to be moving houses more than a couple of times. So I hope, we don't have to keep funding it over and over again. But, we do have pockets of money for 1 or 2 time expenses. But listen, I'm open to the conversation. It's an important part of it, but I don't want to cross the bridge until we've exhausted other easier options.
Yeah.
Commissioner Cruz.
Yes, I can't talk about CRA here. So yes, I am open to having that conversation. I think it's good to look at different opportunities. And also thinking like, this is, as we said, this is urgent, right? Like we need to make this happen as soon as we can, as soon as feasible. So also wondering like, how long would it take for the impact fees to change? If it's something that we could do, quickly per se, then that's great. But I don't know if it has anything to do with state statutes or it's just so yeah, I'm open to looking at it and maybe having that discussion. And if we can get maybe like in the meantime, before the next meeting, as soon as we find out, maybe like all of this legal stuff, if we can start looking through it before, so we can start finding opportunities, I think that would be great, to continue to be proactive in finding
I
opportunities.
think we need to include Amanda Radigan in the conversation with regard to the art fees and those sorts of things. So
Amanda, not right
I'm
now.
just saying, no, I'm just saying, it's something I will have to
course,
discuss with her.
Yes.
And I can give you a memo with regard to it.
All right, thank you so much, everybody. Do we have clear direction to you? Okay, just make sure we're good. Before we adjourn for today, I just want to ask staff a very minor update on the Eco Park.
Sorry, there was
there was one more?
to talk about that senior funding. Is that something that you wanted to talk about?
I thought staff had to come back with that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, it was an update requested. I'm just asking for an update on the Eco Park as well, if there's support from my colleagues on that.
Yes.
Yep.
With that, may I have
Yeah.
a motion to adjourn? I'm sorry.
Did you want it now or you
No,
want it
not
for next?
now.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Okay.
I don't put you on the spot. We have a motion to adjourn?
Just for clarity, I want to make one
Okay, go
observation. Okay? I want to make sure that please, make those tier from all the way down to Seacrest, okay? From federal,
Okay.
okay? Thank you. All right, now.
All
you
right.
can make your
Is there a second to adjourn? We have a second. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you so much for being patient and for joining us this evening.